I want to talk about Dr. Mathis and this Dr. Mathis connection to Halloween Kills. Of course, none of this has been officially announced yet, but just to kind of recap where we're at with this, um, an actor by the name of Michael O'Leary. He is known for the the soap series Guiding Light, and he's been in many things over the years. A few weeks back, he tweeted that his excitement that his he had landed a role in Halloween Ends, and he was very excited about it, and that he was going to be playing a character named Dr. Mathis. And so of course, a lot of people like myself saw that and got, oh, this is cool, new cast member, new character that we're going to meet. This is awesome. And but wouldn't you know it, within about a day or so, that tweet was gone. Now, Bloody Disgusting even picked up this story and ran with it, and we didn't really we didn't jump on it at the time. Again, what this is all going to be made official sooner or later, but I did notice that the tweet and any other mentions on his social media about the project, is a lot of people had congratulated him in response to that tweet, and he had answered and made a few other comments about the project. All of that has been removed, and nothing else has been shared on his social media. But this is the internet, where nothing is ever truly gone. And so this is a screenshot of Michael O'Leary's tweet. I know it says 1 day ago. That's not uh, factual, of course. It was tweeted last month. And he had said at that time, Halloween ends, in all caps. I'm thrilled to announce that I'll be playing the role of Dr. Mathis in John Carpenter's iconic thriller starring Jamie Lee Curtis. So, of course, all of us fans paying attention to this, I mean, this broke pretty big right away. Bloody Disgusting jumped all over it. And then obviously, um, Mr. O'Leary, I'm sure, realized that he was getting a little more attention for this role a little earlier than he wanted, and was getting asked some things that I'm sure he is not at liberty to answer yet. But we can answer a few things, a few tiny things, a few small things about Dr. Mathis, because this is not just a random character name. You might remember that this name is mentioned in Halloween Kills. You'll remember in the opening of the film, actually it's after the opening, after the flashback, when we come back in to Halloween night 2018 at Mick's Bar, and it goes in to the bar, and our friends Carmela and Michael are there, and their dialogue right off the bat is actually all about Dr. Mathis. And here they are talking about Dr. Mathis. Now, what what the line of dialogue in the movie is actually this dialogue. And there's a little bit more about this actually in the novelization that we're going to talk about. But the actual line in the movie that we hear, the first line, is our friend Michael Smallwood, who plays Marcus. That's Carmela as Vanessa right there. There's Michael as Marcus. Now, the first thing that we hear him say, before we even see them, we hear him saying, I thought it was going to be like a holiday pizza party with a bunch of co workers, not an orgy. That's what he says. Now, in this novelization, official Halloween Kills novelization by Tim Wagner, it's got a few extra small details about this conversation. And the wording is slightly different as it is, throughout novelizations often. But the full quote in the book now that Marcus says is, "Don't be mad at me. I thought that was going to be like a holiday pizza party with a bunch of coworkers, not a," and he's about to say threesome. And then she cuts him off. And she says, like she says in the film, her same line from the film, she says, "Your vulgar ass boss acted inappropriate. You got to stand up for yourself in these situations." And she's basically telling him that he needs to go in there and kick Dr. Mathis's ass the next day. And this plays out pretty much the same at this point in the novelization. He says in the book, quote, "That's right, you're right. Stand up for myself. First thing tomorrow morning, I'm going to walk into work and quit that job, punch Mathis in the damn stomach. You got me real fired up now." End quote. And that's more or less what Marcus says in the scene. Let me, yeah. In the finished film version, Carmela, as Vanessa, cuts him off before he can say, "I'm going to go in there and punch him in the stomach." He says, "I'm going to go in there," and then she cuts him off and says, "And you're going to punch him in the face." And then, of course, at this point, they start getting distracted. Now, since we're curious about Dr. Mathis and Mr. Michael O'Leary's involvement in this film, we can read just a few more sentences down in this paragraph. And yes, it is made apparent in the novelization that Dr. Mathis, our buddy Marcus's boss, yeah, he had some fantasies about getting it on with these two. Basically, he invited these two to his house with the idea that he was going to have sex with them. And he's the boss. He's Marcus's boss. It's said in the book and in the finished film. And so they go there thinking it's going to be a Halloween costume party, and they go and they show up, and it's just him. And apparently he's planning on the three of them getting intimate. And of course they're not having any of that, and that leads them to Mick's bar, where they're having this conversation right before meeting with our characters. And that's where they're a little bit already annoyed to begin with before our characters show up. And you see that play out in HK. So in the book, and another interesting thing, we saw their costumes going back to 2018. We saw them leaving for this party we know now. Um, and he forgets his stethoscope and has to run back in, and she has this moment with Michael. And I talked to Carmela about this. If you haven't watched it, check out our interview. We actually did 2 great interviews with Carmela last year. Check them both out elsewhere on this channel. I urge you, if you haven't, she's amazing. She's awesome. We also were lucky enough to interview Michael as well. He's awesome. Check those interviews out if you haven't already. Lots of good stuff about them. We're gonna have to get them back on here soon as well too. It's about time to talk to them again. But so that's the background. But what it says in the book, it's actually revealed that it was Dr. Mathis that suggested their costumes, and he tells he had told Marcus that it'll be ironic, because you are a doctor and a nurse, you'll be dressed as a doctor and a nurse. And of course, it's ironic because, and as she says in the film, she says that she's the doctor and he's the nurse. And of course, their costumes are the opposite. And she's not just any nurse. Of course, it's Halloween, so any nurse costume you get, it's going to be sexy nurse, and that's what Carmela was credited as originally in 2018. Sexy nurse and hunky doctor, that were their original character names, and then those characters became Vanessa and Marcus in HK, and in the HK book, they even get a last name in the book. It's Wilson. There we go. They've got a last name. Um, so Marcus's boss, Dr. Mathis, played by one Michael O'Leary, now in Halloween Ends. And again, in the book, it's made clear that he talked Marcus into these costumes, and Marcus is thinking in the book, in this scene right here, it's being described. What's going on in his head is that he is realizing that Dr. Mathis suggested these costumes because he was most likely really just wanting to see Vanessa in a sexy nurse costume. So, does any of this come into play in Halloween Ends? Any of this backstory for Dr. Mathis? I highly doubt it. I don't think we're gonna get into that. I don't even really expect that this character will necessarily be, uh, you know, all that pivotal of a character. But then again, we look at these two. I mean, who would have thought that they were gonna these characters were gonna be as significant as they turned out to be in the sequel? So I have to say that I really, at the end of the day, like David Gordon Green dropping these breadcrumbs throughout his films, picking it up. We know that this water tower, he dropped this water tower in HK so that it can be used and kind of be paid off in the sequel in HNs. And I do appreciate these things. I like that it's not just a random doctor, whatever he's going to do, but it is the doctor that in fact these two characters were talking about, and that in fact this novelization claims wanted to have a threesome with him. But the last name of Mathis actually goes much further back in this franchise than Halloween Kills, as one of our viewers, Patrick Ring, thankfully reminded me that the last name of Mathis was first mentioned way back in the 1981 sequel, Halloween 2. As Nurse Karen is walking to her car with her friend, we pick up their conversation. Karen is talking about pin the tail on the donkey and bobbing for apples. Actually bobbing in water, no less, she says. She continues saying, quote, I'm never going to another Halloween party as long as I live, especially not at Stevie Mathis' house. And of course, now I'm going to be late. So it sounds like Stevie Mathis, now known as Dr. Mathis, has been throwing some pretty wild Halloween parties in Haddonfield for decades and pretty much disgusting all of the females that have attended them. And I don't know if this is like the type of fan service that some people complain about, but I love these Easter eggs that David Gordon Green is putting in these films. I love when any franchise does this type of stuff. You've got to have a character who's got to have a last name. Why not make it significant to the franchise? Acknowledge the history and the legacy that you are dealing with here, and give the fans just a small wink. So that's the Dr. Mathis connection to Halloween Kills. Is there going to be more to it than that? Is any of that even going to be acknowledged in HNs? Honestly, I could see it going both ways. I could see him just being there and it never even really being fully acknowledged that he was Marcus's boss. Maybe he just walks by and you see like a plaque in loving memory of something at the hospital or something like that. Maybe it's something that simple. Um, but on the other hand, this is David Gordon Green, and again, I mean, he's surprised me with some of the things that he, laid the egg for and planted the seed for in 2018 that he picked up on with Kills. So I think there's going to be more of that with HNs. But let me know what you think.